So let's react to an architect reviews the Corsair Star Citizen by a YouTuber that I guess he's new to YouTube. He has only 248 subscribers. His name is Morphologist. Morphologist. All right, let's watch it.
This is the Drake Corsair, Star Citizen's latest big ship to debut, complete with enough firepower to make even a UE gunship.
This is apparently 4K, but it looks like 480p. What's happening?
Blush with envy, making it undoubtedly the new favorite of those looking to do some make unsolicited cargo inspections of their fellow citizens. Drake doesn't officially like being associated with the Grim Hex crowd, if you know what I mean. So shortly, in this latest installment of an Architect Reviews, I'll take you through why I think its asymmetrical silhouette is one of the most successful and iconic designs to date from CIG's design house.
Yes, it is. It's fucking amazing. From the outside, it's amazing. Although it is basically the whatever ship in Star Wars, but just like rotated by 45 degrees, right? Or no, 90 degrees, not 45, 90 degrees. So instead of it being like A-shaped, now it's like whatever. But it looks amazing.
And then we'll take a step on deck and see what accommodations Drake has made for its lucky crew of 4. Oh, and if you stay tuned until a little bit later in the video, you can also find out how you'll have a chance to win a custom nameable Corsair Star Citizen game package with lifetime insurance. So make sure you look out for that. But just in case you want to prevent any unsolicited personal info inspections, you might want to check out the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. They now not only help to hide your IP from prying eyes, but go a step further with their new threat protection service. It works against intrusive ads, malware trackers, and malicious websites, and I've already been using them personally for years after getting fed up with dealing with free VPNs that just didn't work. So now I can access IP-restricted websites while I work from abroad, all while protecting my personal information. I also use the app on my iPad to help me watch shows that I like Strange New Worlds, which are frustratingly not available here in Taiwan.
They added that like 3.14, I think.
So if you're looking for a reliable VPN service and you want to help support my channel, you can head on over to nordvpn.com/morphologist, where you can get a huge discount on a tier plan. Plus, you might actually get a little bit more because it's Nord's birthday. They're celebrating it, so right now, if you sign up, you'll get at least 4 additional months or up to a year free
this video goes with the last one.
Go ahead and check it out. And if you don't like it, you can always get your money back with their 30-day
when you're in North Korea, you'll need NordVPN or China.
On approach, the Corsair in its landed form is easily one of the most interesting and iconic looking ships in Star Citizen. It actually reminds me of the Mantis from Jedi Fallen Order. That game is awesome, by the way, and if you don't know, I've got a video on my channel that kind of talks about its architecture, so check it out. Its gigantic wings and their folded position feel suggestive of something like old sailing ships, which feels appropriate for the name Corsair. Even the rear of the ship with the way it tapers upward reminds me of a sailing ship's stern. I wonder if this was intentional. If so, bravo by the designer. That's a really cool suggestion. But the real special look comes from when the Corsair deploys its massive wings, especially when you examine it from an angle where you can see its asymmetry. Rather, I should say appreciate its asymmetry. Asymmetry in design, if you guys don't know, is like sliding the difficulty slider all the way up to max. It's really, really hard to pull off successfully. And that's why I think I'm blown away by just how well CIG's ship team has pulled off the Corsair here. It feels like the hero ship in a movie I really want to see. The folding animation is also impressive. As someone who studied mechanical engineering before switching to architecture in university, I absolutely love the way the hinge slides along the big wing to tuck it a bit closer to the engine array. And that someone actually spent time trying to make this look believable. How cool is that? I mean, I can't help but geek out about these things in ships that Star Citizen does.
Yeah.
The engine array is also really impressively detailed, with a signature orange-red thruster glow and articulated nozzles that actually move when you hit the afterburner. It gives the impression of power.
Although, what can you do in that ship? You can fly it, you can pew-pew, And that's it.
Interesting
And you can admire the hinge.
fact, by the way, pointed out by Mike Philibin on Twitter, is that they actually have to produce over 1,000 metric tons of thrust just to overcome the mass inertia of the Corsair to lift off. That's surely enough to flatten anyone standing under the ship.
If only the rest of the game had as much thought and care put into it.
So just be careful of that if you're watching this thing take off. On closer inspection at the exterior, the ship is also chock full of awesome details that shouldn't be overlooked. Like, I really particularly love these banding details along the hull. It gives the sense that there's an underlying structure, which visually is supported by these rivets and panels that make it feel like this was put together, that, you know, there's some story behind its manufacture. It makes it feel tangible, makes it feel like it could be made in the real world. And I think these smaller details, as well as the wider ship's form, really start to bring to mind a powerful design tool that I suspect CIG's artists have employed with the Corsair and even other ships. Academically, it's referred to as narrative design theory, and that's a little bit dry, so I think I want to explain it a little bit more simply as just using narrative or a story to inform a design. So let me explain. In the context of Star Citizen, by imagining a story behind the design, such as, say, culture,
that's like 90% of the game. Just imagining. Is that what he's going to do? Is that what he's going to see?
Citizen, by imagining a story behind the design, such as, say, cultural origins of the ship's manufacturer, what designers want to suggest with how the ship could...
What's wrong with the shadows, though? Can anybody tell me what's wrong with the fucking shadows for, I don't know how long? Like... I don't see this happening in newer games, but it's still happening in Star Citizen. I don't fucking understand this at all.
Used, and the economics of how it's manufactured can all play a role in informing how CIG's designers assemble the design
is one of the most
in
important
whatever programs that they use to make
in like newer games
feel right in the lore and fictional universe of Star Citizen. It's important to note here, though, that this kind of idea is applicable to pretty much anything in design. So if you're looking to do architecture or furniture, it's absolutely useful. In instances where it's utilized correctly, it can make for a really compelling result that really connects with users, evoking memories and connections that the person who's looking at it might be familiar with. So then going back to what I said earlier in the video about how the wings look like sails when the ship's landed, you can see how they're trying to give...
Like, even without ray tracing, you can see better shadows in other games. Star Wars Battlefront, for example, amazing looking game, still... Battlefront 2, actually. Still amazing looking game. Great fucking shadows. I'm seeing like these graphical glitches and like shadow glitches in other games that are not really that... They didn't like put enough work into those games to like care about shadows.
In the video about how the wings look like sails when the ship's landed, you can see how they're trying to give this idea that it's an old sailing ship, or at least suggest it subconsciously. They're using this narrative here to evoke these connections so that you associate it with fast, light, but well-armed sailing ships of the old sailing ship days that pirates might have used. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious, right? With the name Corsair, that's exactly what a Corsair is, or was rather, they don't exist anymore. But now you can probably see how powerful design can be to inform you of its purpose without just telling you outright. Yeah, the name is Corsair, but looking at this ship, I think you could probably say you get the sense of what they're trying to communicate. I look on this then as a super successful design. It's not just good, it's great. All right, class dismissed. I digress. Let's get back to maybe some more pragmatic things like the features of the ship's exterior. As a pilot, you'll have control of 4 size 4 gimbaled laser cannons mounted on size 5 hardpoints, with an additional 2 outboard wing-mounted size 3 cannons, all on size 4 hardpoints. Together, they're capable in this gimbaled stock form of delivering 2,559 DPS downrange, and as you guessed it, quite a bit more if you swap them all out for size 5s and 4s. But be warned, swapping guns out on the Corsair for fixed guns really makes it hard to aim, as the turn rate on the Corsair makes it hard to hit anything smaller than a Connie, so it's not recommended. Moving one seat back, the co-pilot has access to a remote turret in the rear section of the ship, equipped with 2 size 2 repeaters that can even face forward to hit targets with the pilot. And as you might have noticed, it's also got 2 turrets. They're both equipped with size 2s, and they can fire forward with the pilot.
Well, let's talk about shadows a bit more. Did you see those kind of like graphical glitches in Crisis 3? Like this game is based on the engine of this game is based on Crisis 3's engine, or Cry engine from like 2012.
Combining all the firepower of the ship up together to go over an insane 4,000 DPS sustained.
Like, I understand that they're going to do ray tracing, although I don't know if like all the cars can support that. But at some point they will. But also, why is this happening right now?
Some 8 size 3 missiles in there, and you've got a recipe for enough firepower to take down a hammerhead if you get the jump on it, and that's
I'm
impressive.
just curious. I'm not
For the
like
internals,
being
it comes with a single size.
Sorry, Reddit.
shield,
I'm not being
2 size
hateful.
2
I'm just being curious.
power plants, 2 size 2 coolers, and a size 2 quantum drive. This makes the Corsair quite a bit more tanky than you might suspect, but the Corsair isn't perfect. While it has the potential to deal more DPS than the days until Squadron 42 is released, its 2 side turrets have a surprisingly limited range of motion, not being able to face backwards and having very limited upward and downward range. That means that anybody who gets just slightly behind you is going to be out of your firing arc. Yeah. And while the aft remote turret can cover most of the rear, it has a huge blind spot just below the cargo ramp that skilled light fire pilots can slide into, which is going to mean death if it's not
like
countered.
The English or the British tanks. What was it? The Winston? No, it wasn't the Winston. It was the Churchill. It was the Churchill, not the Winston. So the Churchill, it could go forward pretty nicely. It had like a okay cannon on it. But it wouldn't. It just wouldn't go backward at all.
Quickly by a skilled pilot. So while the Corsair can be formidable in PvP situations, it's not really the kind of ship you want to get in a turning battle with an experienced pilot in. It's not really the meta yet, and we'll just have to see how the flight model rework puts it later this year, because I really hope to see it more often in actual combat. Now, before we move on to the interior, it's time I snuck in the giveaway rules here for those of you who've actually stuck around this far, because believe it or not many do, and I want to give this ship away to somebody who actually wants to watch my videos. So this is kind of a thank you to you guys. So if you want to be eligible to win, all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to my channel and then post in the comment section what you see yourself doing with the Corsair. It would also be really cool if you could share this video somewhere on social media, but that's not really required. It's not going to increase your odds. I would just really appreciate it. So if you've done those things, I'll randomly select one of you guys from the comment section a week within posting the video. I'll reply to you if you've won directly with my official account, which will have a check mark right next to my name, so you'll know that it's my account and not some scammer. And that's really important, guys. You have to look for the check mark, because there are scammers out there, and they've been in quite a few of my comment sections. I've been making efforts to ban them, but they keep making new accounts, so watch out for that. You have to look for the check mark. But now it's time to step on deck and take a look at the Corsair's interior. Impressively, the Corsair actually has 4 ingress points, which is good when you know that you might be shot at when you exit, which, let's be honest, if you're flying a Corsair, probably happens pretty often. One of those entrances has a pretty neat party trick too, and it's the one closest to the flight deck on the Corsair's
I want to hear his
side.
opinion on the interior, because the interior for me is like just bad.
Press a button and the lift is revealed through a
The layout is fucking amazing, and it's the best of any ship that is in Star Citizen. But the design itself is just like, whatever.
A sleek folding door. Once on it, you'll find 3 physical levers, which are actually animated. An awesome little detail, by the way, which I absolutely love. I love the analog nature of Drake ships. Pulling the middle lever will bring you to the ship's interior, as you probably expected, but pulling the 3rd lever on the left brings you to the roof. This offers some pretty fun possibilities, but also some tactical advantages. Think, for example, if you're exiting your ship on a planet's surface where you know there might be somebody waiting to ambush you. Now you've got the high ground to shoot down at them. Yeah. There are also 2 other entrance points, one being the docking ring and the other being the most obvious, the cargo bay at the most rear, but we'll look at that a little bit later. Returning to the interior from the forward lift, it exits on the habitation area for the crew. Here, crew can take meals in a generously sized mess hall, complete with a dispensary and a nicely sized table just off center in the room and out of the way of the main circulation path down the main axis of the ship. And thankfully, the designers over at Drake have deemed the Corsair fit to have its own head, something that the Cutlass Black is sorely lacking. Notably though, it's the only one on the ship, so no captain's head sadly for those of you looking for that. The interior's design though is authentically Drake, a bare-bones design language that reveals wiring, bulkheads, welds, and rivets, but I find that this is a charming aspect of Drake's design language. It's not a place for soft-handed Microtech pencil pushers.
This one really gets me. This corner is so poorly illuminated. Just like a single fucking light source, a small light would be nice here. But this whole corner is just like, whatever. Even when the lights are like on in the whole ship, it's still like that. And I'm gonna go as far to say that they didn't like introduce any other lights here because they were not really happy with how the interior looked like here. Like it was just like whatever. Yeah, we did it. It looks like a ship. It's a wall and that's it. So we're not gonna illuminate it because it doesn't matter. It doesn't look nice.
It's a place for hard folk who don't need any thrills to get their job done. At least that's the story.
Also, I said that the layout is amazing, and it is to a degree, but this thing here. So the crew quarters, honestly, the crew deserves to have like 2 bunk beds. So like 2 entrances to their rooms, and then you have like a bunk bed and another one on top of it, and that's it. And then the captain should be here. But no, the captain's quarters is a copy-pasted thing, and it's in the front, in the like cockpit. I don't understand why he is like exiting the cockpit bare naked just to see his crew, and like he needs to go here to the toilet. That's the only part about the layout that I don't like, but the rest of the layout of the ship is fucking amazing. But okay,
need any thrills to get their job done. At least that's the story I get the feeling that they're trying to tell. One thing that misses the mark here though is the lighting. I feel like there's something—
See that leader? It's not lit up.
Incomplete with this space, especially near the dispensary area where I need my flashlight to actually look at this space.
Exactly.
And in case you're wondering, no, there aren't any light switches to turn on lights here. There just aren't any lights. Definitely feels strange. And sadly, this lighting issue is something that you're going to see pop up throughout this ship's interior design. Moving on though, just across from the communal space are well-positioned main crew cabins.
And it's not done just to have like a different moods to the other ships. It's just like done poorly.
Appropriate for the programmatic organization of the ship. It connects to a communal space where you'd want to hang out after, taking a nap or, changing out shifts. However, upon examining one of these crew cabins, you might find yourself surprised to find it quite a bit more spacious than you might have expected. In comparison to other vessels like the Constellation or Redeemer, it feels positively luxurious. Of course, nothing about the finish of the space is luxurious. It's like sleeping in a half-complete framed house, but it's Drake, so that's what you should expect. Each cabin is pretty much identical, including the captain's quarters, which is maybe just a little bit smaller and the bed's rotated. They
Is
come
this a light
with
stick that's like stuck to his hand?
a suit storage locker and a foot locker that is actually independent of the ship's standard local inventory, so you've got a little bit of privacy there. The full
Honestly, I didn't even see the footlocker.
crew complement listed on the Corsair officially is 4, but I personally think it might have been a good idea to double up at least 2 of these cabins for an additional engineer and marine, especially considering we've just gotten soft death, which enables us to board other ships, and we're soon going to get multi-crew engineering gameplay, which I think having another crew member do would be great instead of trying to pull somebody off a turret. It feels like a missed opportunity then. Moving further aft, just connected to the communal space, is a mechanical space that gives
This is the best part about the Corsair.
access to various functional components of the Corsair. You might call this an engineering bay. The space is octagonal in floor plan, which makes it a bit unique, with the quantum drive featured prominently in the center, with various other subcomponents arrayed around each wall. One thing that kind of bothers me a little bit though is the cable management on the ceiling. It kind of feels like a
Come on, it's fucking Drake, dude.
mistake. I know it was done for the rule of cool, but I think they went a little bit too far on that side and they should have made some cable management, you know, like racks.
It's not a PC build, it's a fucking Drake ship.
Or something to make it feel a little bit more like a manufactured chip as opposed to like a custom job, but that's just me. Halfway then through the left side of this space, you'll find yourself in a docking collar space. Here, just like the mess hall though, the light switch doesn't work near the door, which is frustrating. You can activate the lights though by hitting the light switch near the airlock, strangely enough, so it's not super intuitive. The space is decently lit once you actually get the lights on, which reveals a set of 4 suit lockers and a bunch of gun racks. And interestingly, 2 large gun racks capable of holding some heavier hardware like railguns and rocket launchers, which are perfect for favorable negotiations. The airlock animation itself is pretty cool, but cooler even still are the mechanical levers for operating the doors. Again, the designers have done a really good job here of making the space feel believable with its mechanicals, and I want to see more stuff like this on future Drake ships. Moving all the way aft, you'll find yourself finally in the Corsair's generously sized cargo bay. Without the up to 2 cyclone rovers that you can fit in here, the space is capable of supporting 72 SCU of cargo. Technically, it's less than the RSI Constellation, but in terms of volume, it provides a lot more flexibility to squeeze a little bit more in there if you want. In case you're wondering though, no, it can't fit a tank, it's just a little bit too low for it. Likewise, the design feels consistent with past Drake designs like the Cutlass and Caterpillar, featuring exposed mechanicals, components, structure, and insulation, which, as I've said before countless times, I absolutely love. The cargo door is also a pretty nice party trick, folding out mechanically with a very satisfying whine and clunk of gears and hydraulics, and has a really cool feature that I hope to see in other upcoming ships, which are floodlights for the rear area of the ship outside. It's great for
one of the best parts with the Corsair.
Illuminating, loading cargo, or identifying hostile threats that might be camped out at your most vulnerable area of the ship. This is
the thing that annoys me is if the Corsair has 4 crew, why do similar ships like the Freelancer have the same? It seems like it shouldn't need that many. You mean the Freelancer?
Biggest entrance, and it's hardest to protect people from running on board.
I mean, it's a newer ship. I'm gonna speculate here. Reddit, if you're watching this, I'm speculating. Jesus fucking Christ. So I think that they wanted to have ships like Freelancer-sized ships to be like 4 or 5 crew. Then they wanted the Connie to have like, it's a bit bigger, so like 5 to 6 crew. Because you have the co-pilot, the pilot, the other co-pilot, you have the turret, the other turret, you have the Indian Andromeda, you have the snub fighter, and then you have maybe an engineer, etc. And then they realized that they're not going to be able to fit that many players onto a server with more like server meshing and all of that. So I think they're like cutting down the crew that is needed to like run the ships, and that is the optimal size of a crew. Or the maximum, or even the maximum size, because here you only have like 4 beds, right? 3 plus 1, yeah, it's gonna be 4, I think. So I think that like that's the reason. And once we get the reworks of the older ships, you're gonna see like the crew, the max crew size go down.
Peek at where all the action happens, which I'm sure many of you have been itching to see. Moving forward from the habitation area in the ship, you'll find yourself in an area dedicated to 2 turrets on either left and right side. These lead to seats that are appropriately bare bones Drake. Not uncomfortable looking, but certainly not luxurious. Perfect.
Well, the Kali steel is like a dropship, so like that's why you have that many seats. It's made to be a dropship. Although it's a really poor dropship at it, but it is still like a dropship.
For a decent visibility level, though, with a limited range that I talked about earlier in the video, which leads to some pretty bad blind spots. Forward, once again, though, we'll finally find ourselves on the bridge or the flight deck, whichever you prefer to call it. Just to the left of the entrance is a slightly smaller version of the crew cabins that we saw further aft, and ahead of that is a spacious...
See, like the fucking... captain's quarters is smaller than the other cabins, and it's just like whatever, dude. It's it's basically the same. It's just a bit smaller.
This is a slightly smaller version of the crew cabins that we saw further
drops like a
aft,
fly or
and
some
ahead of
shit,
that is a spacious flight deck with an interesting vertical crew seating arrangement for the pilot and co-pilot. The arrangement, though, is only revealed by sitting at that rear co-pilot seat, which brings you down through a mechanical contraption to a lower canopy with a great view to below what the pilot can see. Here, you now have a great view of what's below the ship, and you get access to the rearmost remote turret. Right now, though, there's not much else you can do in this.
It would be cool if you can fly it right now from that seat, just like for landing sake and all that.
Position, but
Although
I
it's
suspect in
pretty easy
future
to
this will
land
be
in
a
the
secondary
pilot seat
piloting position and
already.
maybe even capable of controlling the lower two size 4s, but we'll see. With that position out of the way, we're finally left with the most important part, the captain's seat or the pilot's seat. In typical Drake fashion, the MFDs and switches are all analog and mechanical feeling. They feel ancient but satisfying with toggle switches and levers
The best dashboard, like in any ship, honestly. This is the best dashboard.
really feel like they do
All the
something when you
switches,
flip them.
everything is just
Some of them
super
actually
cool.
work too. They're animated, like the lever to deploy and retract the wings. Dang cool. There's also a cool little secret MFD to the lower right on the floor if you look for it, and it actually works. I don't know why they did this, but it's a cool little Easter egg.
What would we do
Here,
if we
visibility-
didn't have the immersive third-person camera? Well, most people wouldn't even fucking play the game because most people are playing it to just like make screenshots. and that's
Isn't
it.
too bad, with the struts being minimally obstructive. Views to below, though,
Although I
aren't
must say this is really good. Like having that camera is really good for like these purposes to make like videos, but also it's not super immersive and it is a bit game breaking because you can abuse it in a PvP situation. So yeah.
super great, so you have to rely on your co-pilot to spot what's below you. The ship flies also in a pretty predictably heavy way, responding slowly to commands to change heading, which is why the
Over
Corsair
landing, yeah.
isn't particularly great with dealing with small ships by itself. And despite its shortcomings, it's a joy to fly and awesome when you punch the accelerator to get up to its top speed, which isn't great, but it does accelerate pretty quickly up to it. Overall, then, I think the Corsair design, especially from its exterior, is fantastic. It's iconic and I love it. But the only thing that really comes to mind that keeps it from a perfect score is the incomplete feeling interior. To me, it seems like the designers ran out of time to really flesh out some of the lighting properly, and I think that they even forgot to do some of the switches. There's also some inconsistency with the crew cabin sizes versus other ships in the Drake lineup, but I think there was a missed opportunity.
Have they already like made a post on Reddit about like morph being like rage clicking or no? What was it? What did they call me? Rage clickbaits? Whatever. Is he doing the same thing now by stating the fucking obvious?
Here to add a few more beds in a bunk form. Were these issues to be addressed, I think that I would easily rate this as one of the best ships I've reviewed on my channel. What do you think?
Yes.
Are you eager
but
to
also
get
the interior is not really that good.
one of these yourselves
exterior
now?
is fucking
Let me know
amazing.
down in the comment section below. And as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys in the next one.
All right, so this was morphologist. He's like a new player, I guess. And here's the video. There you go. You can sub to him. He only has like 248 subscribers. So yeah, he needs more subs. So you go and sub to him. It's a really good video. Like the shots are fucking amazing. Everything that he said here, I agree with. But also, he didn't really say one thing, and that's like that the interior design is a bit too bland and boring. And not as exciting as maybe the Cuddy is. Although you can say that like the Cuddy is like a fucking open space, which it is, but also it's made to be that. And this, I'm not really sure, like whenever I go through it, what is the, like when you get to the crew quarters, like what is it made to be? Like what's the point? And why does the main, like the commanding officer or whatever you want to call him, the fucking captain, why does he have a smaller room and why is it in the fucking cockpit? Why are these not like bunk beds for the crew? There are some like questions that need to be asked, honestly. But it is a really good design.